Good morning. It is Thursday, March 25th, 2021, Bed Talk 262. And I'm here today to talk about, you saw the sign, slowing the down. Not in the speeding way in driving, but in the speeding ways of life. I was on a radio show podcast yesterday, and they were talking about some of my lessons from my journey to the Camino in Spain. And one of those lessons, the chapter is called Just Stop, is about how vital it is to slow down and how difficult it is for many of us to just slow down, pause, and maybe even stop. And I told the story that when I had arrived at Santiago de Compostela, still 3 more days in my journey, but I arrived at the destination city. Synchronistic magic, I ran into my good friend and mentor, Mark LeBlanc. We had dinner and we were both hurting pretty bad. Mark had finished his 30 plus days, probably the most challenging trip of three for him in his life. Physically, lots of blisters. He was limping. I was limping as I did every night with my really horrible feet pain, shin splints. It was bad. I don't know how old we looked walking through the streets of that ancient Spanish city, but it was old. And we were walking poorly. And as we were coming back from the restaurant, Mark said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, I'm walking on to this next town." And he said, "Well, why don't you just take a day of rest? I mean, you look awful. You're limping." And I said, "Well, I always limp like this at night in my sandals. When I put my boots on, I limp less." True statement. Still limp, still in pain. And he asked again, he said, "Well, what's the rush? Why don't you just take your time, take a day off, get some rest, heal up a little bit?" And I said, "Well, Mark, I want to get to both of the coastal cities, and I'm not sure I'll make it if I don't leave tomorrow." Now, by the way, I did make it to both. And he said, "Well, Jeff, you can always come back, hit one of the cities. I know you'll come back here to Spain." And I said, "No, no, no, it's not a big deal. I'm not going that far tomorrow." To which Mark said, "Well, how far are you going?" And I said, 15 miles. And he said, "Jeff, you can barely walk." I said, "But this is how it is every night, Mark. I'll be fine." There was this pause as we were walking, and then Mark asked me a question. It's one of those questions in the moment that was perfect and profound. And he said this in this way: "Do you always do this?" And I was apparently open to hearing it and listening because I paused for a moment, took a breath, looked at him, and said, "Yes, I do this all the time. I push through, I persevere, I overcome. I go farther, harder, faster than everyone else. I don't rest, I just push it." And I knew in that moment, because I'd looked at it before, that's that part of me that doesn't want to slow down because somehow me keeping going and pushing through and persevering and overcoming makes me feel better about myself. And it's a way I present myself to the world. And I took another breath and I looked at Mark and said, "I'm going to take tomorrow off." And I did. And I slept in and I took a hot shower and I limped around Santiago and I had nice meals and I had good wine. And the following day, when I got to walk, my feet still hurt. I wasn't healed, but that wasn't the point. The key was for me to stop and choose to rest in that moment. How many of you struggle with not slowing down, not stopping, not resting, whether it's in the moment, in the day, over the weeks, the months? Ask yourself that question. Is this what you do all the time? And is it serving you? And more importantly, is it serving your mission in the world? So that's my challenging question to you. Do you know how to stop and pause and slow down? Are you willing to? Do you do it on a regular basis? It's ongoing work for me, maybe for you too. Share your stories. Thanks for listening. Keep taking care of yourself and everyone around you. And by all means, stay connected.